Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today is October 8th, 2024, and today is Tuesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the markets retreat lower almost across the board. But first, no major economic events scheduled for today. And another thing, we're only 4 weeks away from major elections in the United States. So I just want to highlight that before we start the rundown. Now, looking at the highlights of the markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, we watched the major pairs really sitting on supportish level, previous resistance against the US dollar almost across the board, and the Turkish lira makes new record lows versus the dollar. Now looking at the indices, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ sell lower. So do commodities, including gold and oil. Now looking at the stocks, Microsoft leads the market lower. It's been very weak. And lastly, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin unchanged. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go. First with the USD. Now we're getting a bounce at previous resistance, subsequent support. That's where we are right now. It's a small bounce, not a big bounce, but it's enough to just put a halt right now to this massive sell-off versus the US dollar. And you can see that right now we're at 109.24 on the Euro USD. Now this is almost across the board. So you have to really look to see which one's going to lead us in either direction. Okay, are we going to continue making a correction on the downside or not? Are we going to bounce here and just trade sideways for a while? Now looking at the GBP USD. Now looking at the GBP USD, we're going to be looking at a weekly chart. This is a daily chart. This is a weekly chart. You can see we're sitting right there on a weekly chart. Previous resistance, subsequent support. And why I'm highlighting this on a weekly, in technical terms, a weekly is just more significant. It's a longer time frame. And if we're testing a previous resistance or subsequent support as a result of it, that's major news. And especially if we're going to start bouncing off of it, we may see the GBP actually be the one that's going to lead us back higher. Okay, so keep that inside as well. Now looking on the flip side, a weaker one is the Australian dollar, which is not showing any kind of bounce. Didn't really, stop at 68-ish level. Continued selling off, and it is showing more weakness versus US dollar. Now lastly, let's take a look at the Turkish lira, continuing to make it record lows to 34.22, and you can see this on a weekly chart. This thing has just, for the past 3 years, just gone lower and lower and lower, and it did accelerate about almost a year and a half ago, back in May-ish of 2023, and that's where we are right now at 34.22. It's a simple trade. We've highlighted it several times, just short and hold. That's basically it. Now looking at the commodities, gold sells lower to its supportish level. Now I don't like to big bottoms for the obvious reasons. They make lower lows. It's very hard to big a bottom. Okay, we are at 2630-ish level, between 2630 and 2660, but we've been trading pretty much in that range for quite some time, so there's no reason or impetus to really say that we're going to change that. So this may be a good place to start buying it, in anticipation it's going to bounce back to that 2630, 60-ish level, excuse me. Now looking at oil, this was an easy trade, a great trade, and one of those that go in the books of fading opportunities. What does that mean? We had a little bit of unrest in the Middle East last week between Iran and Israel. There was going to be anticipated a counterstrike on oil refineries, and that obviously disrupts the oil shipments, which causes prices to go up, right? Less oil in the world, still demand, right? Simple. However, there wasn't a counterattack. Initially, we had those fears, and the market pushed the price of oil higher from $68 to about $77 level, capitulated around that area. If we look in the chart, we hit that 200-day moving average, and that was resistance-ish level. And now you can see we've corrected ourselves somewhat, about $2 away from it. Now, this is a great fade opportunity, which means there's a initial reaction to the market. It's more of a irrational, okay, because there was no evidence that there was going to be a counterattack. It didn't happen so so quickly. And so there's going to be a correction in the market as a result of it. It's like a over-exaggeration, estimation or over response to what had happened. And sure enough, there's a correction that follows. And that's what we're seeing right now. That's the short and long of it. Now, looking at the stocks, before we do, let's jump into the indices. Dow Jones also retreating lower, another 300 points, but it cumulatively has gone back to its supportish level. And as we look at the NASDAQ, also just there at 20K, and that is supportish levels. So this is really important levels for both of them. And you gotta have to look at the stocks individually because they are trading individually. So let's take a look at it. Microsoft was and is very, very weak. Okay, it's been showing tremendous weakness over the past 2 weeks, and it's gone from 443 down to 409, which is a decent move. Now it is coming closer to its supportish area, but it has been weaker. Whereas something like Meta made new all-time highs last week or earlier this week, making a correctional move, but I'm not as concerned about it. Okay, I'm more concerned about Microsoft, where it did retrace. Now looking at Apple, also retracing to its lower area. Remember Apple coming out with its new iPhone debut and all that stuff. So there's a lot of anticipation for that as well. So it's very stock specific. Now looking at JP Morgan, we've been in a range also 204 to 210. It didn't really retrace yesterday, so it might be showing us some strength later today. So keep that in mind. Now lastly, looking at Bitcoin, didn't do much. Okay, Bitcoin has been really just dormant between 63-ish level and 60,000-ish level, also trading in a very tight range. We're looking at a daily, and you can see it's pretty much a zigzag. Now, we are not in a higher probability area in either direction, so, right now I'm flat with Bitcoin for now. This is Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.